Hi there. Hey, your head coach, Steve Hopkins, coming to you today with our first monthly lesson. And this is all geared around a very foundational skill or dimension, if you will, called self-awareness. That is a massive area. So we'll tackle in a few minutes kind of what we're talking about, all right, and why it can be important to you, why it should be important to you and I as it pertains to business, where the implications for that kind of come in. I'll point out some examples of some high performance indications of really good self awareness, and some that would indicate, hey, we have opportunities. Right, that way you can kind of help examine where do you think you fall. Are there some things that sound familiar that make you want to lean into this a little bit? And then we'll finish with a couple practice activities. We'll kind of take a look at some of the things I have over my shoulder. But super glad you're here. And this is important because we're going to go from here into resilience, right, in just a couple quick weeks. And it's a perfect timing because the example of this is thinking about self-awareness to lay the foundation for getting good and building skills that are necessary beyond this, all right? And resilience is a great one. If we think about the past year or two, many of us, have probably been forced into resilience, right, just because of external forces, as opposed to having time to put some attention on it and practice it and be good and confident about it and ready when we needed it. Does it sound familiar? I know I've experienced some of that. So the neat thing about what we're about ready to talk about is self-awareness allows us to accomplish things like that. We really get this opportunity to become familiar with what we're good at, what our strengths are, and ways to enhance those, and what our opportunities are, and how to be mindful of them, and how to really think about not letting those get worse or be liabilities, but maybe even see them from afar and nudge those forward as well. So let's get into it. And I think, like I said, the first thing is just talking a little bit about what we're talking about. And again, self-awareness might sound intuitive enough about ourselves, but really we're just talking about knowing, right? Knowing, understanding, recognizing, having a clear perception on who you are as a person, what your behaviors are, what your normal interaction actions are, if you will. Taking time to be introspective and examine, as opposed to kind of skipping over that and putting all of our attention outward on other people. Right? That's the very common play. And we want to do that, but not before we're really aware of who we are. Who is the person looking through the lens at the situation? What are the strengths of you as a person as you're getting ready to interact in that tough conversation? What are my normal behaviors when I get under stress, when that thing happens? All right. That's so important. And that's really what we're talking about here. All right. I mean, most of us would love to already have all of this knowledge packed in our brain, ready to go, right, on a moment's notice, and just say, hey, everything I've ever read, all those great authors, and some of those great authors are former great business people, just just ingest that and be ready. And that's because we kind of have a hint of what the value of some of this is, right? The business implications. And really, this is unique because self-awareness, knowledge of yourself, is really the base of all the next things that we're going to work on, all the things that give you a firm foundation for growth and development in other things. Like I said, next coming resilience, and then we'll get into leading other people, even, and how we manage conversations and have influence on people, and then we get to business, and then the crazy world of change. So it's really important to understand as a business that self-awareness is the launching pad of all the other things that we look forward to growing and developing on. It does launch forward with transformational change. So we're going to be changing, and if we don't leverage self-awareness, we could be just on the change train, if you will, that somebody else is driving, the world's driving, economic changes are driving, and we're going to be changing whether we like it or not. And we're either a passenger, or because of our self-awareness, we can participate, okay, in the direction of that change, the wisdom of where we want to go from where we are, as opposed to just let's see where we go. All right, and so that's a really big implication as well. Once it comes to people, of course, is you're a person that creates confidence. You're a person that exudes the ability to collaborate, the willingness to leverage different people's skill sets together. You know yourself well enough to start to understand other people. And it's really foundational in helping you become a better manager, improve relationships, right? It's very natural for us to leverage our experience in knowing ourselves and helping other people with the experience of knowing themselves, all for the benefit of the experience of us working together, all right? And we'll go through that progression over the next year, but it starts here. It starts with this module, and there's lots of ways to conquer that. How much help do you need in this? Listen, I think we all need a nudge forward, right? And whether we think of a rating system and you would say, wow, I think I'm a 6 out of 10 and I wish I were a 10, or I'm a 2 and I wish I was a 7. The reality is, if we can just improve, all of us just improve some, you're going to reap some benefits of that, all right? So I want to encourage you, if you feel strong in this area, all right, it's great to acknowledge that and say, wow, I've done a fair bit of work in self-awareness. I think I'm strong. Maybe it's an opportunity just to hone in, repeat some things, or hone in and pick a little spot of self-awareness that you think could deserve some attention. Or on the opposite side, you could be somebody who says, listen, I've not read a single book about self-awareness. In fact, this whole topic makes me feel a little uncomfortable. I just, I like to kind of complete my mission and do my work. I totally get that. But if some of the things we're talking about as far as opportunities ring true, then I would really invite you to kind of lean forward and take a ride these next few weeks with some of the practice of this as well. So let me just go through a list of some examples of where high performance shows up in this, all right? And there's more and more of these, all right? These may just tick a trigger box and say, oh yeah, what about this and this? High performers in self-awareness are happy and eager to listen to feedback, right? They've learned the value of hearing people talk to them about what they observe with them, and then you still get to decide what you want to do with it, right? But opposite, people that don't perform well in this are kind of defensive. Their automatic reaction is kind of resist it and defend against it, right? So it's a very interesting response. A high performer would be somebody, because of that, they're open, they're coachable, they're kind of that employee that, hey, yeah, I'm all ears, let me know, and if you have a suggestion, I'll try that out, and kind of go that route. There are also people that are aware of themselves that you're usually not jumping in and saying, did you kind of see how you just kind of upset that person, or the way you said it really offended them. They're not that person. Usually these are people that are very aware of their tone and their personalities coming off and their emotions and even some of their nonverbal communications. They're very aware of that, and they understand the implications of what they say and how they look and what they do as it pertains to person-to-person communication. And you probably have observed it. Maybe you've been a party to that. All right. Lastly, these folks as well, and it could be you, manage themselves really well in stressful situations. All right. Again, being self-aware, the value of certain reactions, understanding how I normally react in stress. How do I want to? What reactions serve me well in stress? They've had time to practice, time to be aware of that. All right, and you see it in action. All right, where just the opposite. Again, we don't live in a world where there is no stress. We can just see different people and how self-aware they are in some of those situations. Here's a test for you. Ever had somebody say, after the event, they say, I didn't know I was acting that way, or I didn't know I came off that way. It's like, yeah, and we had this conversation, right? We're like, well, I just want to say, I kind of saw it from here, and then two other people kind of were really hurt, or they took offense to that, or now they don't know if they want to come back into the team. Those are the things we deal with. But the reality is, when you play that back, it's like, wow, I wasn't aware that I came off that way. Self-awareness, right, was not in play. And so, these are the things that kind of remind us, hey, I have an opportunity to kind of see this is a little bit of a blind spot of me. Maybe I don't know myself as well as I thought, or I know myself pretty well, except in these certain situations, or I go on autopilot when I work with these types of people, right? Whatever our trigger profile is. Well, anyway, that sets us up just to say, let's all just agree, hey, let's try to get better at this, right? Self-awareness is valuable. We've already talked about the business opportunities. And so let's just talk about a couple practices we can do. The first one is just exploring and identifying your strengths, right? I know there's a flip side of that. You can dig into where you feel like your vulnerabilities are, but let's just focus on strengths for this period of time. And there's a million tools, right? But let's make this simple. You have access to human intelligence, right? And so I printed out my one sheet. There's an expanded survey results as well, and you can go online, log in, and see it as well. But there's so much information on here, and this is just one tool. I'm not going to go through the whole thing like I've done before about how to break down human intelligence. But sometimes we get tools like this and we kind of skim them over and we see the easy things. It's like, oh, I know I'm a helper, an architect, influencer. That's cool. That's me. Yep. Okay. That's very affirming. I got it. That's great. And then, after a week, it kind of wears off. But I encourage you, use this tool to really read and examine the parts that seem very intuitive and dig even harder into the parts that are confusing to you, or that you're not sure about the clarity of that, or you want to ask somebody, like, does this seem like me from your perspective? I'm kind of challenged. I don't know if it feels quite like me from my seat, my side of it. The real experience of exploring what your strengths are can be done in lots of cool ways, all right? So you can research this for one, and I encourage you just to talk to one person the next couple weeks. All right, one person where you ask them, and you could use this survey as a cue. You could just say, I heard this description of what a helper is. I'm a very sincere and genuinely enjoy helping others, blah, 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 blah. Right? That's right from human intelligence. You could just ask them, does that sound like me, or would you verbalize my strength in that area in a different way? And just listen to them. All right? What are you doing? You're at least learning another perspective of somebody sharing their strength that they feel about you, and you've kind of cued them up a little bit, made it a very safe conversation. All right? Learning who we are, we are is really valuable. All right? The second thing is just one of my other favorite topics is just a self-reflection practice. All right, anything that you can do which causes you to pause enough to think back and reflect a little bit on who you are and who you've been today. Okay, that's really helpful. How we've behaved is a reflection of who we are on the inside. It's all changeable, by the way, but sometimes we're in this constant pursuit of thinking we're going to change who we become tomorrow without even examining what our starting point is, and choosing some things that we want to improve because what we saw wasn't as great as what we wanted. All right, so self-reflection you can do in a million ways, right? Something as simple as a notepad, and just deciding that you're gonna just take some notes every night or every morning, just on how the day before went, and that sort of thing. I have a Rocket book here, right? And this is kind of a larger version. You've been given, a brand new Rocket book as well, and you may find we'll talk about how this works a little bit. But this is a great journal tool, and you can write in this, and then send it to yourself in an electronic file, and then erase that page and use it again. It doesn't really matter. But let me give you a couple steps to put this in action in a formative way, and let's all just agree that we jump on this bandwagon as well. Each night let's just try to go for 14 days if you can, okay? 14 straight days, work days, weekends, if you can pull it off as well. What did I do well? So every night you're going to just ask two questions. What did I do well? And that's your own lens. You don't even have to share this with anybody. What I do well today, or what I do well yesterday, right? And just write them down. I think I did this well. I had a really great conversation with this person. I jumped into a situation that I was a little bit nervous on, and I was just proud of myself for doing that. All right. And what do I wish I did stronger? All right. Not what do I wish I did terribly at, or anything like that. Just something I wish I had been stronger at when I had done it. Okay. those two simple questions. Like you could ask yourself a million, but those two give you a head start. And just the practice, the content of that's very important for sure, but just the practice of that gives us the value of self-reflection in general. Okay. And then like what we're going to do each time, and you'll get a cue for this. If we're talking about a 2 week sprint, sometimes we'll even talk about 30 days. I'm going to give you an opportunity just to evaluate yourself, whether it's once a week or once every 2 weeks. How do I rate myself with the attention that I gave this homework, right? Not how well did I do on the homework, but how much effort and attention did I put into the homework, okay? I had a teacher one time that kind of tricked us up. We were studying and we had to do homework for these 5 days, get this done, and on Monday we're going to have this test. And we got to Monday, and we were all nervous and wondering if we were prepared. And the teacher said, "How would you rate yourself from 1 to 10 in your preparation for getting ready for today?" And we, as a class, I remember myself. I mean, I had studied over the weekend and everything, and I was like, "Wow." I mean, I worked my butt off to get ready for Monday's test, and I said that. I said like a 9.7 out of 10, trying to be like I probably could have done a little better. Everybody that said 9 or above, they got an A. They didn't even take the test. They didn't give the test. They just knew that the practice itself probably would produce some good performance, and it was just a good reminder that that's valuable. So take that story for what it's worth, but we'll give you a nudge on that. You'll be able to rate your own attention to this as well. And then we'll pick some stories. We'll cue you up for some stories, and I'll share my stories because I'm going to do this same work here in the next 2 weeks. And I'll share a story. What did I do as far as my two things and my own self-reflection, and then what I'm learning about my strengths, and share those. And we'll have this forum, the chat forum, to be able to do that. Okay, so that's it. Self-reflection and identification of your strengths is really what we're going to choose to action for practice to lead to performance. Okay, and that's all around our topic this week. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can forward those in for sure. But besides that, we'll catch you next time, all right, with our next topic. And we've got some bonus content that come as well, and look forward to that. And also looking forward to seeing you in November. Take care.